Good evening and welcome to I Am Black, the special around her story. The goal of tonight's conversation is to enlighten, educate, and evolve our nation to a place of healing and ultimately bringing us to live in a truly United States. While I'm excited to speak to our panelists, I believe it's imperative that we reflect on our past so we can better understand how far we've come or how far we have yet to go. 57 years ago today, 5 young girls were in the ladies' room located in the basement of the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama. Many of us have heard how the story ended, well, to some degree. 4 young girls, Addie Mae Collins, Cynthia Wesley, Carole Robertson, and Carol Denise McNair, lost their lives because of a few members of the KKK planted a bomb under the stairs of the church. To position this conversation appropriately, we're going to listen to an excerpt from the eulogy delivered at the funeral of Addie, Cynthia, Carol, M, and Carol R. by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
These children, unoffending, innocent, and beautiful, were the victims of one of the most vicious and tragic crimes ever perpetrated against humanity. And yet they died nobly. They are the martyred herons of a holy crusade for freedom and human dignity. And so this afternoon, in a real sense, they have something to say to each of us in that death. They have something to say to every minister of the gospel who has remained silent behind the safe security of stained glass windows. They have something to say to every politician who has fed his constituents with the stale bread of hatred and the spoiled meat of racism. They have something to say to a federal government that has compromised with the undemocratic practices of Southern Dixiecrats and the blatant hypocrisy of right-wing Northern Republicans. They have something to say to every Negro who has passively accepted the evil system of segregation and who has stood on the sidelines in a mighty struggle for justice. They say to each of us, black and white alike, that we must substitute courage for caution. They say to us that we must be concerned not merely about who murdered them, but about the system, the way of life, the philosophy which produced the murderers. That death says to us that we must work passionately and unrelentingly for the realization of the American dream.
The one surviving little girl from the laboratory was found shook, battered, but still standing. And she is with us today. Please help me welcome Mrs. Sarah Collins Rudolph. Welcome to the show, Miss Sarah.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Yay. Your audio was messing up just a little bit, but I think we're good.
Okay.
All right. So first, I want to thank you for taking the time to share your story, especially on such a difficult day for you to talk about everything that happened, because it's a day that you not only lost a part of you, but you lost your oldest sister. So thank you for being here. Now, I mentioned that you were found still standing. Now, I've heard your story, yet a lot of people have not heard your story. But I want to ask you a question before you share your story. As a 12-year-old, do you remember anything from that day that you were thinking or feeling after the time of the bombing?
I know early that morning we was excited because it was going to be a youth day program, and we was going to be in it, and we was going to singing the choir. You know, we was gonna take over all the duties that the adults usually do.
Mm-hmm.
Lead the devotion, take up the offering, and sing in the choir. And we were just excited that day.
Now, you went from excitement to being a part of a tragic incident, right? You were in the bathroom. Walk us through what that was like. What was those moments leading up to the bombing?
Well, the moment leading up to the bombing, we came down into the ladies' lounge to freshen up because we walked to church that morning. And we was all sweaty. So we came down into the basement with my sister Janie and Ed and I. So we came down and freshen up and get ready for to go into class. But we didn't go in that morning. Janie, she went to her class upstairs. But we decided we were just gonna wait in the lounge because of the fact that we was late anyway.
So you said you were going for Bible study?
No, it was gonna be a youth day program.
Oh, the youth day program. Okay.
Yeah. And we was getting ready, you know, because while we was walking to church, my sister Jana had this little purse shaped like a football. And we were just throwing it and we were just laughing all the way, just having a good time catching it. So that's why we went to freshen up in the ladies' lounge. So while we was in the ladies' lounge, I began to just look out the door. I could see my class out in the middle of the floor. And that's when I seen the girls getting up to come into the ladies' lounge. It was Denise McNair, Cynthia Wesley, and Carole Robertson. So they came into the ladies' lounge where we were, and they spoke to us and went on to the other side where the stalls were. And after they came out of the stalls, Denise was in front of them, and they all walked over to my sister Addie. She was standing by the window. And she turned around and she said, Addie, tie my sash. And when she reached her hand out to do it, that's when I heard this loud sound, boom. And all I could say then was, Jesus, Addie, 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 but she didn't answer. So I thought the girls had ran back over where the Sunday school area was. I was blinded instantly from the debris.
Your audio, I lost your audio for me a little bit. Hello? Uh-oh.
Joy.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, anyway, I called out to Addie after I had heard this loud sound. First I said, Jesus, Addie, 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 but she didn't answer. So I thought the girls had ran back on the other side where the Sunday school area was. But all of a sudden I heard someone holler, somebody bombed the 16th Street Church. And their voice was so clear as though this person was in the ladies' lounge with us. But I found out who the person was. He was one of the deacons that was upstairs. He said when he heard the noise, he wanted to come down to see what had happened down there. So when he looked to come down the step was blown away. So he said he jumped down. And when he jumped down, that's when he seen me standing.
Wow. That is such a powerful story. And we're grateful that you live to be able to share it. Now, the clip that I played earlier of Dr. Martin Luther King giving the eulogy, you weren't actually able to be there because you were in the hospital yourself, fighting for your life. And I believe there's a picture of you behind you, of you in the hospital.
Yes, that's a picture of me. That's with the patches on my eyes. See, when I arrived to the hospital, I had to, they told me that I had to lay on this cot because the eye doctor wasn't in. So while I laid there, that's when my sister Janie came in, and I asked her, where is Addie? And she said that Addie had hurt her back, but she was going to visit me tomorrow. And I said, okay. So they rushed me on and operated on my eyes later on. And when they took me back up to my room, that's when my mother was waiting on me. And she had told me that all the girls that was in the ladies' lounge with me, they was all killed. I was the only survivor.
Now, when you learned that you were the only survivor and that you missed your sister's funeral because you were in the hospital, did that impact your ability to forgive the perpetrators, and that it took them 35 years before they were even taken for trial?
39 years.
39, okay.
Yes, I was angry. I was young, and I was angry because they killed those girls for no reason at all. And I didn't understand that, by the age that I was just only 12 years old when that happened. But I know they had killed those girls for no reason, and I was very, very angry at them. But I had to learn how to forgive them, which I did later on in life.
Now, to fast forward and make this more of a parallel, today, Breonna Taylor, we all know that her killers are still roaming the, free, just like the men who bombed the 16th Street Baptist Church. And when you think about it, 57 years later, we are still enduring this systematic racism and, equality. And why can't there just be justice? Yet today, Breonna Taylor's family received a settlement from the state of Kentucky for $12 million. Now, we're going to get into your situation a little bit later, but I think that this is a great time to introduce the rest of our panel. So I'm going to take a moment to introduce the rest of our ladies who are going to join us for her story. Now, our first panelist that I'm going to introduce is Dr. Maya Rockymore Cummings. Welcome, Dr. Maya. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me. And thanks, Miss Sarah Collins Rudolph, for sharing your story.
Now, Miss Rockymore Cummings, let me make you like a big person. There we go. She is a managing partner, or she leads a policy consulting firm in Washington, D.C., and is the former chair of the Maryland Democratic Party. And I'd be remiss not to mention that she is also the widow of the late Congressman Elijah Cummings. Thank you so much for being with us, Myra.
Thank you.
All right. We also have one of the top 10 female lawyers that you should know, according to Black Enterprise magazine. She is a mom, and you might also recognize her from the hit TV show Wrong Man. She's also my dear friend, attorney Sue Ann Robinson. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you. What an honor. Thank you.
All right. Last but not least, not by a long shot, I would like to introduce you to Angela White. She is a woman who has worn many hats in the entertainment industry as producer, executive producer, director, and so much more. She's the founder of Silver Lining Entertainment, and she has been at the helm of many successful TV shows, films, and she's notably recognized as the first African-American woman to produce and own a production company that released a theatrically faith-based film. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you, Angel. Glad to be here. Honored to be here amongst all of these prestigious women.
Yay! All right, there. I think I got us all on the screen. Everybody can see everybody.
Okay.
All right. Now, I personally can't recall a time in school or in movies where there was a complete accurate depiction of what the civil rights movement really was like. Sarah, I wanted to ask you your opinion of that. Like, have you seen any films that have done justice to what happened on September 15th in 1963?
No, they haven't had any justice toward the bombing. That was something that happened then, and the city was involved, the state was involved. Bull Connor He was the one that was riding around in his army tank, calling out to the policemen to put the dogs on the people. And also the state of Alabama was involved. Governor Wallace, he really wanted it to be segregated. He said segregation now to segregation tomorrow and segregation forever. And by them being all involved in all the hatred and the thing that was going on at that time, it's not selling yet. It's not selling at all. Because for one thing, they want to act like city of Birmingham been like this forever. But we came through some hard times during that time when all these color fountain and white fountain, and it was just wrong the way we was treated at that time.
Now, because we do have a Hollywood producer on the conversation, and as part of this, Angela, I want to get your opinion. You have a new film called Hands Up, which tells the story of the effects and trauma of slavery and how it's had on and still has on us in America today. Talk to us a little bit about the trauma that you believe Black men and women are still the carriers of.
Yeah, you know, when we go back, everybody says 400 years, people don't understand of how that affects us today. They think that once slavery ended, that all of a sudden we had wealth, all of a sudden we had education, and all of a sudden we had family. All of this was ripped apart and torn apart, and in Hands Up, we explore that. We explore one family in a sci-fi way that goes from 1800s all the way to now. And people really don't like to correlate the two together, but they absolutely go together. When we started to obtain wealth, what do? They burned it down. When we try to educate ourselves, what do? They try to put in laws so we can educate ourselves. So people have to understand, until we have true reckoning, until we have a true reparations, there is going to be a lack of for one group, and that's particularly the African Americans that have basically built this country. And that's what Hands Up is dealing with. It's just trying to show people visually a correlation between now and slavery.
Now, when we look at how our country is continuing to cry out for equality and kind of balance out systematic racism, what is it that you think are some things that we can do as women? And I feel like women have been at the helm of this for a long time. And this is open to anybody who wants to jump in there. What do you think that we can do to really move the needle forward?
So obviously, I think storytelling, as Angela White and Sarah Collins Rudolph showed, is very important, because people need to understand. Sometimes the best way for people to understand is through the lens of a story. But I should also say that politics and policy have to be key. All of these atrocities that happen to African Americans and now increasingly to Latinos and Muslims and other communities are perpetrated through an imbalance of power that takes place through our political system. Now, the first aspect that people know about in terms of how you actually engage in terms of how to change the system is voting. And it's something that we absolutely must do at every level of government. In every year that there's an election. But you also have to be an advocate for your issues. You have to be constantly on top of the people you hire to serve you in your government. They have to be bending to your policy agenda, and you have to be demanding what your community needs. We can't coast when it comes to our own freedom in this country. We have to fight for it. And the civil rights movement didn't solve our issues. Neither did the election of President Barack Obama. This is a continual battle, not just for the soul of our democracy, but for our lives.
And so what should we be doing then? Like, how do we step up? How do we move the needle forward? If none of these things have worked, if we're still in this state of, you know, we got to move, we got to carry this torch, we got to do something, what should that look like?
This is the deal. It's not that it didn't work. Obviously, the civil rights struggle, where you saw those dogs in Selma and the batons, it led to change. It led to the Voting Rights Act. It led to the Civil Rights Act. It led to the desegregation of hospitals in this country. It led to a whole lot of things. But then we coasted, thinking that things were going to stay the same. We can't coast. We can't afford to just sit back and think that, somebody else isn't going to try to come and snatch our gains away. We have to be perpetually vigilant. And that means continuing to have an inside-outside strategy. Yes, protest is important, but so is voting, so is advocacy, so is education. We have to be continually engaged. We can never forget, because the ideology of racism will not disappear. We have to continually fight it for the rest of our existence in this country.
Sue, as a former prosecutor, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, as a prosecutor, that we have to change the narrative in our community in terms of jury duty and start to really socialize each other to understand that it's a service that we do for each other. It's not necessarily something that we're doing for our country. It's something that we're doing for each other, because the Constitution guarantees each citizen a right to have a jury of our peers. And so many times as a trial attorney, I'm in the courtroom, I'm doing jury selection, and African Americans deselect themselves. I've so many times been on the other end of a phone call of a friend trying to get out of jury duty, trying to ask me what can they say so they don't have to serve on jury duty. And what people don't realize or connect in our community is that that is where those issues are happening and being resolved. These issues that are affecting us every single day. If Breonna Taylor's killers are charged, they're going to be tried in a court of law. And so if we don't show up for jury duty, guess what? We can't complain if officers are not being held accountable in a court of law, if we're not willing to sit there as a juror and serve. And so, I say it at any opportunity I have, to any audience I have, whether it be 1 or 1,000 people, I'm like, do not deselect yourself. Understand that your unique perspective as an African American, and possibly an African American that has had a family member that's had a negative interaction with police, that actually makes you more qualified to serve on a jury that involves police witnesses, because you're able to look at the witness as a person and not necessarily as an infallible kind of system. You're able to actually evaluate the facts and what they're saying. And so a lot of times African Americans deselect themselves by saying, oh, I had a bad experience with a police officer, so I can't sit on this case. And it's just not true. You can be fair, and your unique perspective and every single life experience that you've had up until that point qualifies you to sit in that chair.
Now, I'm going to go to a clip from Angela Davis, who actually talks about the kind of injustice that occurs in being not only Black, but being specifically a Black woman.
And so I think that we can say without the slightest hesitation that there has never been a single moment in the history of our people in this country when Black women were not intensely involved in the resistance struggle. I want to continue what I was saying with a quote from a woman whose name is Dorothy Height. She's the president of the National Council of Negro Women. She says that to be Black and a woman is to labor under the double handicap of racism and sexism. Historically, the Black woman has carried this dual burden. She has had to work alongside the Black man in a struggle unlike that of any other group in the United States. Hers has been a desperate effort to make a place of dignity for her people. Generations of Black women have carried a disproportionate burden in the family as they are determined and were determined to keep its integrity intact against the constant onslaught of indignities to which it has been subjected. Not only have these women stood shoulder to shoulder with Black men in every phase of the battle, but they have continued to stand even when their men have been destroyed by it.
Now, ladies, that clip, I feel like the part that really hit home for me was how there's this kind of double handicap of the racism and sexism. What has that looked like for you? Have you encountered it? And if so, like, how did you deal with it?
I think that the double handicap issue has to do with the fact that as Black women, we are not permitted to prioritize our wellness. It's always about exactly what Dr. Maya Cummings said. It's always about, we need to continue to push, we need to continue to fight, we need to be on the front lines, we need to be working, we need to be making sandwiches for protesters, or we need to be getting protesters out of jail, we need to be at home making sure that the kids are fine. We need to be the strong Black woman all the time. And you don't have another option. Whereas there's no other group that doesn't get to relax. There isn't another group that doesn't have an opportunity to say, okay, I'm not going to vote this election. I'm just going to hang back and kind of, just stay home and see what happens. Because if, Black women don't show up to the polls, there's a huge gap in voter turnout. So we're always on the front lines. And so to me, the handicap of it is just that you're always working. You're always expected to work. And there's never a time where you're really allowed to prioritize your own wellness. And so, to me, I think what 2020 has showed me and our part and my part as a civil rights attorney in seeking justice for my clients is to take that time to talk to my clients, one, about their personal wellness. Because even while all these things are going on and they're expected to be at protests and to do media hits and to keep, the community motivated and obviously to keep themselves motivated, they're also going through a grieving period of their own and also expected to be advocates for a loved one that's passed away at the same time. So I can't even imagine for Ms. Sarah Collins Rudolph, being a child in that time and being expected to just grow up like normal. Like, okay, well, this thing happened, but, and I'm sure they weren't offering, therapy and grieving and, really focusing on that issue, because I feel like, and she can speak to it obviously, but I feel like as a community, a lot of times we're just forced to kind of keep pushing. You have to keep pushing, and there's never a time to really heal and prioritize your own wellness.
Now, Sarah, were there any concessions given to you?
No. When I got out the hospital, I think I was at home about three or 4 days a week. And didn't no one counsel me. They didn't do anything. It was just I had to just go back to school in a bad condition, because back there at that time, they weren't doing things like that. They just send you on off to do your own thing without any help, So that's the way it was in the 60s.
Now, what are some things that we are doing or that we should be doing today? Because if you think about like how these killings are taking Black men, fathers, or Black women, mothers, out of the homes, how is this impacting our children? How is it impacting the Black family? And anybody
I know that man, he's the leader of the family. He the one most of the time do the work, but ladies do work too. But when they take away the men out of the family, it's something is missing. Because he got a heavy voice and he can talk to the kids and make them obey. But but sometimes kids will run over the mother, but the man, he just had that strong force about him.
Maya, what are your thoughts?
So I think that for Black women, the experience of having the double isms of sexism and racism is oftentimes how we think of children. We're treated like children. They want to see us but not hear us. Now, the broader community, the white community, we are invisible unless there is just something extraordinary that causes them to see us. And they certainly don't necessarily want to hear us. But in the context of within the Black community, Black men, I think, oftentimes don't want to see African-American women at the table in a position of power where their voices are being heard, even though Black women power the politics of the African-American community. We see this in our church, and we see it in the broader African-American community. And if you're talking about a mixed situation where, it's political and you're dealing with whites and African-Americans, they certainly want and prioritize African-American male leadership, I think, over Black female leadership. And so now you're seeing a backlash against that. We have African-American women across the country insisting that the Democratic Party, for example, step up and recognize the value and the power and the contributions and the strategy and the brilliance of Black women, and to recognize it in a way where we're not just tokens standing by the table, but we're full participants at the table. And oftentimes this kind of insistence for equality actually ruffles the feathers of African-American men especially. And so now I think that we are in the process of becoming, as Michelle Obama says in her book title, but that process is fraught with conflict. And yet it's a conflict that we must have in order for us to recognize and to realize our full power.
Now, Angela, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, when it comes to isms in Hollywood, as an African-American woman, I'm fighting everybody. So I don't know about other industries, but I know mine. I'm not only just fighting the white male, the white woman, I'm fighting the African-American male and also the Latinos. African-American women historically have no power in Hollywood. Even though we have Oprah, I'm going to say it again, we have no power. What does that mean? Green lighting power, power to fund, the power to really come behind, a network to really push behind you. Now that's been changing in the last 5 years, and that's why you're seeing the exit of people like Shonda Rhimes leaving ABC and going to Netflix, because Netflix has been more empowering for African Americans than any other network. It's a known fact, not just financially, but also telling our authentic stories. So the fight for me is with everybody, unfortunately. And as African American women, there's only 6 of us who have our own production companies in Hollywood, and it's 2020, and that's ridiculous, right? We're still breaking barriers. Regina King just broke a barrier last weekend at the Venice Film Festival, being the first African-American woman to direct One Night in Miami, which tells the story of all of our favorite icons. This is really crazy. Even when I broke a barrier in 2017, I'm like, this is nuts. So we're still fighting everybody to break barriers. And Dr. Cummings, you're right on point. Unfortunately, with our African-American male counterparts, they rather be the leader and then us be not in a secretarial position, but an assistant type position. And so we've been fighting that as well. I want to go back on something you said, though, about Black men being taken out of homes. We touch on this in this new movie, Hands Up, I did. They've always been out the homes. And that's something we need to start talking about, too. Our homes were broken up years ago, and they haven't been restored or repaired. And that's something that we really need to have an honest conversation about. It's not by our choice either. We know the slave masters purposely separated the Black family. And I think as a Black families, we're still not united, unfortunately. There's not many people united. And I think a lot of this comes with the lack of education, of people not understanding why there are a lot of Black men that are not at home. I have so many colleagues who have grown up not knowing their father. There are reasons for this. And it's not to give excuses, but we have to educate so people learn for the next generation on how to fix it.
No, I totally agree. And speaking to your point, I think it's the perfect segue to my final clip that I want to toss to. And it's around the power of the woman. And Malcolm X loved the woman, the Black woman. And a lot of people did not know that it was Black women who helped him forge and build his political agenda and how he moved in that space. And so I'm going to go to this clip.
The most disrespected person in America is the Black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the black woman. The most neglected person in America is the black woman. And as Muslims, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us to respect our women and to protect our women. And the only time a Muslim really gets real violent is when someone goes to molest his woman. We will kill you for our woman. I'm making it plain, yes. We will kill you for our woman. We believe that if the white man will do whatever is necessary to see that his woman gets respect and protection, then you and I will never be recognized as men until we stand up like men and place the same penalty over the head of anyone who puts his filthy hands out to put in the direction of our women.
Now, ladies, when you hear that clip, and I know in a lot of the promotional materials that were put out in promoting this event today, I think that when Beyonce played it in one of her songs in her Lemonade album, it became more mainstream, right? But when you hear that, what comes to mind? How does it make you feel? And do you find truth in what it is that Malcolm X said back in his speech on May 22nd, 1962? Do we still find truth to that today? Maya, you disagree?
I mean, when you look at statistics about domestic abuse, when you look at statistics about intimate partner violence, African American women are some of the most abused women on the planet. And yet, we oftentimes, we're the most abused, and yet we're the least reporting because we're afraid that the police will show up and shoot somebody. And so we find ourselves in a catch-22 situation, unable to be protected or respected in many situations, although there are exceptions. I had a beautiful husband who absolutely never abused me, and he supported me to the umpteenth. However, the situation that I had with him has not always been my reality, and it's not the reality of many Black women across this country. And so we have to not deal in fantasy. We have to deal in reality in order for things to get better. And for things to get better, we have to call a spade a spade.
Angela, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that African American women in this country are not protected by anyone. Unfortunately, we are busy protecting everyone. We're the most forgiving group, too, in my opinion. A man can knock somebody upside the head and you will take him back. And this is a problem. Again, it goes back to me to lack of education, or also to how a lot of women have been raised that you're supposed to have a husband and everything that happens in the home, it stays in the home, right? And a lot of people still believe in this thought. So I find a lot of times we have to protect ourselves, which is very unfortunate. And we are the mother hen to everybody.
Sue, Ann?
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that's being said. I think that the issue, to me, the way I describe it, though, is that we're just not socialized to prioritize our own wellness. We are socialized to prioritize everyone else. Has everyone else eaten? Has everyone else gotten rest? Is everyone else, has their ego been properly stroked? Is everyone else getting the proper opportunities? But we're not prioritizing our own wellness. And, we know the saying that you cannot pour from an empty cup, and you can only do it for so long before your personal energy, is going to affect how you interact with your kids, your other family members, your husband, or your domestic partner. It's only going to be so long until that starts to be affected, when you never have the opportunity to prioritize yourself, because systemic racism, you're constantly dealing with different pieces of that, with your kids. I have friends that have sons, and they tell me just from the time their sons start school, the schools are telling them, oh, your son needs medicine for ADHD. Little small kids. Oh, they have too much energy. That's normal for small kids. But if you have a black son, you have to, from the time he hits school, you have to be vigilant on PTA, on SAC, making sure they're not trying to force drugs down your kid's throat or trying to tell you your kid's a behavioral problem when there's really nothing wrong with them. You have to be vigilant in that. And then you have to be vigilant with them at home, obviously, because, they're not safe in the community. So you have to be watching over that. So I think the fact that, if we made the time, and that's why there's always these moments, which goes to Angela's profession, in certain films like Waiting to Exhale and stuff like that, when we have a movie where you see us get to have our moment of a girls trip or just be able to prioritize ourselves, we all get on it and we're like, why is this a cult classic, or why are Black women flocking to this film? It's because we are like, this is what we want to be doing more. We want to be prioritizing our wellness. We want to chill. Okay, like we would like to chill. We don't want to be at the helm of every single thing all the time. And we don't mind, being at the helm, but the issue comes where you don't get the proper credit and you don't get the proper exposure, and you're dealing with those microaggressions while you're the one with the voice, you're the ones with the ideas, I should say, but not the one with the voice, to Dr. Mae Cummings' point. So I think all of that, when you're dealing with that, all of that stuff psychologically, that plays in even to how we deal with each other, how we're dealing with each other, just on an everyday basis. So Angel can tell you, I'm a hugger and a kisser. Now we have COVID. It's totally ruined that for me because I can't do that, obviously. But, the idea is just to, promote each other, because as Angela said, there's no one to protect us. So we have to really focus on, protecting each other. If you're in the workplace with another Black female, work together. Try to bring other people through the doors that you get through. And I always do that. I have tons of mentees. I have online mentees. I have mentees in real life, Black women, because I'm like, I want as many Black women colleagues as possible.
Now,
because
wait, Sarah. Sue. So one of the things that I feel like I want to touch on, that I feel like you've said a lot in that moment, when it comes to when we're in the workplace and the stigmas that are often placed on us. If you are ambitious, then you're too assertive. If you are passionate, then you're angry. If you are, so how do we overcome that? And I will be honest, sometimes it's not always other cultures that are attacking us. They're doing it to each other. So what are some of the things that we can overcome to really say, okay, you know what? This is, this is how we need to move forward. This is how we need to unite so that we really can push and propel one another forward, and not worry about like what you're doing and feel like you're taking away from me if you're winning. Like, there's enough in this world that we all can win and we can all excel. So how do we get on that equal footing?
Yeah, I think first it's conversations, recognizing that internalized racism affects us.
I'm going to somebody else.
Okay, sorry. I thought you were asking me. My
bad. Angela, what are your thoughts?
I think it's happening in my industry. Black Girl Magic's happening all day. So if you look very closely at all the new projects that are coming through, it's Black women all day pushing it through. All of my mentors have been Black women, except for one who's been a white woman who's helped me. In all transparency, white women have helped me. So I only hire in key departments women. It's pro women in our industry. And because we finally have recognized that if we don't push ourselves forward, nobody's going to do it. Nobody's going to. I don't care if you looked at P-Valley or Power, whatever your favorite show is, there's a Black woman at the helm, okay? Lovecraft Country, there's a Black woman who's directing it. Ava DuVernay, you look at all her stuff. We are pushing each other forward. So in my industry, we understand and recognize that we have to do it. And I think other people need to recognize it. Now, do we have competition in our industry? Absolutely. Competition is healthy, though, to me. So it helps push everyone to their best self. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think, again, it's a lack of education in some industries where they don't understand that the more of us empower, guess what? We push us all in power. Right. And that's what people are lacking to understand.
Maya, what are your thoughts?
So this is hard because I mean I have been a victim of, I've seen the crab mentality operating in our community, and I have seen Black women against Black women. Not just everybody else, but us against us. And so, in some respects, I'm jaded in that sense because I think oftentimes we let ourselves be manipulated by others and let ourselves be pit against each other in a way that's harmful for our power, frankly. At the same time, I have been engaged in projects where I have, had interracial, interethnic, help. And certainly, for example, my husband's book is about to be published. And, the people who have helped to advance this project have not been Black. They have been white Jewish women. And so with that, I appreciate that. I acknowledge it. I thank them for it. I look forward to continuing to be collaborative. I recognize that, sometimes it's about reaching across any difference. We have to reach across differences. And we can't always be thinking in the context of our ethnic community in order to get things done.
Go on and push that book. What's the title of the book? Can you hear me?
You talking to me?
Oh, no. I was saying, Maya, what's the name of the book?
Oh, I should have brought a copy of it. It's back there. We're better than that. My Fight for the Future of Our Democracy by Representative Elijah Cummings. It's coming out next week. I'm going to be on the Today Show. I'm going to be on the CBS Morning Show. I'm going to be all over. So, check it out.
We got it first. We got the...
And Angela, I'm coming out to Hollywood. We're going to get this produced into a multi-doc series.
Let's connect. Netflix right now, let me tell you on another side note, but this is on topic. Netflix right now is pushing our agenda.
Absolutely.
Almost everything I've done has been on Netflix. I've just started working with Lifetime this year, but they're pushing our agenda. So you have a story to tell. It's time to put pen to paper and tell it.
Yes. I love it. I love it. That's all about the coordination and working together. Now, I do want to go back to another point that Sue Ann brought up, and it was around like us really being free. I feel like a lot of time Black women, including myself, when we feel like we have a certain image that we have to uphold, we have a hard time letting loose, letting go, and stepping out and doing some things that are different, stepping out and just being ourselves. Now, am I the only person that has dealt with that? Or is it something that we all go through and we're trying to balance like that self-wellness, that self-care, and not get lost in the shuffle of what we're building and that legacy that we want to leave behind our name?
I can jump in and say, yeah, for sure. I go through it. I have a large following. There's a lot of young girls that look up to me. I am extremely cautious of what I post and what I put out there. And it's intentional. When I used to practice, Sue Ann, I didn't post anything. I never posted me drinking, ever, a photo of me having a drink. And then when I transitioned from law into being a producer, I started understanding that responsibility as well. And I'm okay with that. Everybody's not okay with that, but I'm okay with that because everybody can't handle a duality. They can't handle you partying because you hear some good music, and then at the same time, you're trying to tell them how to transform their life. I've learned people cannot compartmentalize that into a box. So I'm okay with basically having, as a lot of us women have, we have dual lives. We show one thing publicly and then privately, we keep it private. And in my industry, I prefer that.
Okay. Sarah?
When I was going through what I was going through with, trying to get over the bombing and everything like that, I know that things had changed in my life. And I know that by me being the way that I were, coming up, and I didn't have the opportunity to go to college and learn how to do things, I know I had to get out there and do things on my own, because I knew that by me being hurt and everything, I couldn't just look for a person to do things for me. So I had to get out there and try to do some things for myself without having the education that I want. I wanted a good education, but by me being just messed up like I was, I just couldn't get that education. So I had to go out there and learn some things for myself to make a living for myself.
And
So
to that
it just,
point, Sarah, you're still working.
yes, I still do a little work 2 days out of a week because I have retired and I just didn't want to just sit at home doing nothing. So I still go out and do some work because
Sarah, what do you do? Yeah, I'm gonna make you say
still,
it.
I still take care of a lady. She's a very nice lady that I take care of, and we talk a lot about things that's going on in the world today. And she's a graduate. I mean, she's a teacher. She teach college. She taught not university, but she taught the
Uh-oh, your audio went out.
or she would teach at several college. I know she taught at Sanford University, and she always talk to me about what's going on in life because we see things that are happening now in our world that's not right. Like for instance, we see our black men is getting killed for nothing, for no reason at all, and this is just wrong. And people they get off without going on trial. They just still get paid, and they don't go to jail or anything. And we know this is wrong because they killed our black men for doing nothing. Like they did Floyd and Michael and all those guys.
But it's not just their black men that they're killing because they also, in commemoration of today, at the hands of the KKK, your sister and 3 other young girls were brutally killed in an explosion. And that was 57 years ago. And then if we look back at things that we're dealing with today, we're still kind of seeing where things are not always treated and executed in the same way if it were for white young girls, right? It wouldn't have taken 39 years for a black man to go to trial. Or in Breonna Taylor's case, if that was a white girl, I highly doubt that that nobody would be arrested at this time. But I want to move the conversation and acknowledge you once again, Sarah, and to say thank you. At the bottom, I have highlighted some of our sponsors who have made today possible and who have helped us get a token of love appreciation to be able to present to you on today. And I do recognize that no one has ever given you any financial restitution for what you have been through. And so I want to, on behalf of the woman behind the business and DC Media Connection, M&T Bank, Vets, and Secure Tech 360, and the multitude of people who have decided that they want to give to you as well, I'm going to make that possible. I just changed the little ticker to a Cash App handle that anybody can give directly to Sarah right now. For someone who will be 70 years old in November, I do not think that everything that you've been through, that you should still have to work. I know that you do it because I heard you tell your husband the other day, well, I do it because I don't want to get old. I don't want my bones to get old. And so I want you to know that, you are loved, you are appreciated. And even though I know you've received Medal of Honors and all types of what you call trinkets to hang in your house, there's nothing like money to be able to help you with your medical bills, to be able to help you just do something nice for yourself. And in the midst of COVID, I know life is not easy for a lot of us. And so on behalf of me and the other women who are on the panel, we thank you for being with us. And we thank you for taking the time to share your story.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And ladies, I wanted to just say, is there any last minute thoughts, because I know we're running low on time, that you all would like to share with the audience or say to Mrs. Sarah Collins Rudolph?
I just want to say to Sarah Collins Rudolph, thank you for telling us your story. A lot of people did not know that there were 5 girls in that fire. And so I think it's a powerful story, and it's a fire story should be told on screen, to be honest, the entire story. But thank you for telling us your story. It's a true testament to faith and perseverance.
Thank you for listening.
You're welcome.
Maya, Sue.
And I want to agree with the thanks to Miss Sarah Collins Rudolph. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for sharing. I'd also like to say that for all of the Black women out there who might feel oppressed, stressed, depressed, that it's okay, like Sue Ann Robinson says, to take time for yourself, to actually consider yourself, to actually prioritize yourself, and to love yourself in a way that allows you to rejuvenate. You don't always have to be out there on the front battle lines. You can take time. And so with that, I just beg people to actually care for and prioritize themselves, because you're no good to anybody else if you're not good to yourself.
Yes. And Sue, you have, I've loved listening to all of your mental and wellness expertise that you've poured into us today. So thank you so much for sharing that wisdom with us. Go ahead, I spoke over you.
No, that's fine. I was just going to say what an honor it's been to be on this panel. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you so much to Sarah Collins Rudolph. Just a testament to the strength of Black women, survival, tenacity, to still at 70 be fly and be on here and have all the internet connection and everything going and just be so strong. So I really, really appreciate your spirit and of course your story. And, please, everyone, do not self-deselect yourself from jury duty when you're bored and you're online. Hashtag I can be fair. I try to talk about it in the community. You do have to vote, but please also serve on jury duty, obviously after COVID-19, and they figure out how we're going to do all of that. So I appreciate, again, the forum.
And so please, I just want to tell people too, so please, if you're not registered, vote. Get out and vote, register so you can vote, because we got to get 44. We got to get him out. So please register, vote.
Well, whoever you guys vote for, I just want y'all to go vote.
No, I'm not gonna say whoever.
I'm not gonna say whoever either. I'm with Miss Sarah Collins Rudolph on this one.
At this point, it's good versus evil.
Got to get them out. That's just all it is too. We just got to get them out of there.
That's exactly right. You got it, Miss Rudolph.
All right. Well, ladies, thank you all for spending your evening with me. I truly, truly appreciate it. This has been fun. If you guys want to learn more about I Am Black, please check out iamblack.org. This has been a powerful conversation. I hope that you all enjoyed it, because I know you took out time from your day to be here and to share each of your stories. We're going to do it again in November around the Montgomery bus boycott, around that anniversary. So stay tuned. We will be doing it. Definitely check out iamblack.org and follow us on social media. Can we just do a quick round of everybody's social media? You guys can follow me. I'll put it in the chat box. But I'm Angel N. Livis on all social media platforms. Angela?
I'm Miss MS Angela White on all social media platforms.
And I'm Maya R. Cummings on Twitter and Instagram, and Maya Rockymore on Facebook.
At Not Just a Lawyer. on all social media platforms. And thank you again. Great to meet you, Angela. Great to meet you, Dr. Cummings.
Same here, Joanne and Dr. Cummings.
Nice to see you all.
I'm Sarah Collins Rudolph. I am Sarah Collins Rudolph at gmail.com.
I'm on it. Yes.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. Until next time, be blessed, and we hope that you stay connected with us on our social platforms. Until then, bye-bye.
Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye.